Yeah, we are in live. Mr. Wanga, you start.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. I hope you can hear me. Okay, so good morning from DMI-St.John the Baptist University. We are welcoming you all to this international virtual conference on innovation, science, engineering, management, and social sciences 2021. So this will be a 2-day conference with people and speakers from all over the world. I welcome you all and good morning. So before we can proceed with our program today, may we please have an opening prayer by Reverend Father I. Rex Kumar, Placement Officer from DMI-St.John the Baptist University, Malawi. Father?
Heavenly Father, we stand before you in a humble prayer while we start this virtual conference. We realize that without your blessing, we would not be able to succeed with the plans we have for this activity. We come to you this hour asking for your blessing and help us as we are gathered together. You know what we are setting out to accomplish this conference. We have plans, ideas, talents, abilities, and time to share. However, only you can see in perfect detail the end of every beginning, every project, every season, and even every life. Nothing is ever in vain, for even mistakes and missteps are used for good. Loving Lord, your righteousness excels all our efforts and understanding. Forgive us for our pride, strengthen our confidence, and set us free from comparison in order to contribute together effectively. Help us to share together and encourage each other to excellence. Bless this conference and all those who are present now, as well as the lives of those we will encounter afterward. Ready us to make every moment count. Amen.
Thank you so
Amen.
much, Father. Thank you so much, Father, for the wonderful prayer. And we will now proceed. Before we can start our program officially, we are also going to have a welcome address by Dr. I. Jerin Lino, Principal of DMI-St.John the Baptist, Lilongwe, Malawi. Please, Dr. Jerin.
Yes, thank you, Tonga. Very good morning to one and all present here. And thank you for joining us at the 2 days international conference. Just before we get started, I would like to express my gratitude to all of you who so generously helped us make this event come together smoothly today. It is my great pleasure to welcome you to the 2 days international virtual conference on innovation science, engineering, management, and social sciences here at DMI-St.John the Baptist University, Malawi, using an online platform. We are all looking forward to learning and sharing fruitful research experience at this conference event. At first, may I thank Lord Almighty Jesus for his immense blessings bestowed on all of us. On this special occasion, I would like to extend a very warm welcome and acknowledge the founder and chancellor of our university, Very Reverend Father Dr. J.E. Aruldoj, for his tremendous support and guidance on all our endeavors. I would also like to welcome and acknowledge Dr. T.X.A. Anand, the President of University Council, for his continual support. I am pleased to welcome Dr. Elijah Malinga Menad Wanda, Director General, National Commission for Science and Technology, for being our guest of honor today. Welcome you, sir. I extend a warm welcome to Reverend Father G. Sundar, the chairperson, and Reverend Sister J. Ronnie, the vice chairperson of this event. Welcome, Father. Welcome, Sister. It is my pleasure to walk you through the conference, introduce you to the speakers and delegates that have joined us from all over the world today to share their knowledge and enhance our mental horizon. Today's conference has about 100 participants participating from more than around 50 universities across the globe, making this conference a truly international conference in spirit. Last but not least, I would like to thank and welcome all the delegates, the university authorities, keynote speakers, the delegates who have come from National Commission for Science and Technology, and my colleagues. I would like to conclude my speech by encouraging the delegates to participate with an increasing number in all the activities and discussion through the digital platforms for the next 2 days. I wish everyone a successful, safe, and fruitful conference. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Dr.
Thank
Jurin,
you.
for the welcome address. And now we're going to have Mr. K. Rajkumar, the organizing secretary, to give us an introduction on the innovation science, engineering, management, and social sciences, head of the ICT at DMI-St.John the Baptist University, Malawi. Mr. Rajkumar.
Thank you, ma'am. With the blessings of God, the founder and chancellor, Very Reverend Father Dr. J. Arulraj, the president of University Council, Dr. DXA A. Onan, the secretary of University Council, Reverend Father G. Sundar MMI, the vice chancellor, Dr. G. Anand Binod Singh, all my beloved officials, all protocols observed. A very good morning, afternoon, and evening to all in different diverse nations. It is my great pleasure to introduce the theme of the conference, International Conference on Science, Engineering, Management, and Social Science. In the COVID pandemic situation, the world is connected over the virtual environment, so that the DMI-St.John the Baptist University has decided to bring together a significant number of diverse scholarly events for presentation within this conference program. The International Conference on Innovation, Science, Engineering, and Management, Social Science, aimed to bring together leading academic scientists, researchers, and research scholars to exchange and share their experience and the research results on all aspects of innovative science, engineering, management, and social science. It also provides the premier interdisciplinary platform for researchers, practitioners, and educators to present and discuss the most recent innovations, trends, and concerns, as well as the practical challenges, encounters, and solution adapted in field of innovative science, engineering, management, and social sciences. In this conference, we mainly focus the engineering, science, management, and social sciences. These are our subtopics. We are concentrate all the area aspects of the engineering, science, management, social sciences. And in this conference, we identify the 6 keynote speakers from the various nations. The first keynote speaker, Dr. S.M. Mallikarjuna, Professor, Texas University, United States of America, is going to be given the keynote address on the topic of efficient finite element treatment on traditional pigment forge models. And next keynote speaker, Dr. Nagalakshmi Annamalai, Professor, Universities of Science, Malaysia. She is going to be given the keynote speaker on minimalistic active learning approach in times of crisis. Another keynote speaker, Dr. Sarada Sadasivam, Professor, University of Science, Malaysia. She is going to be given the topic of neurosymbolic integration, a new perspective in artificial intelligence. Fourth keynote speaker, Associate Professor Dr. Nurdalif Mohar Sharif, Universities Putra, Malaysia. She is going to be given the topic of building IR 4.0 in the education through learning analytics and chatbots. And fifth keynote speaker, Dr. Chung-Lik Park, Professor, Hanyang University, South Korea. He is going to be given the topic of nonlinear bidiversion in C algebra and related results. And final keynote speaker, Dr. Batmapriya, Professor, Alagappa University. She is going to be given the topic of research perspective in machine learning algorithms. And these are our advisory scientific committee from the various universities. We received 150 manuscripts from the different universities, and from our senior scientific committee through we are reviewed the papers. We shortlisted 100 papers for our presentations, and we split out the 4 venues of the presentations, and followed by this inauguration we're going to be conduct the paper presentation as in between of the 2 days. And our conference has powered by the 2 Scopus journals. And out of the 100 papers, which papers are we identify the high quality papers. We plan to promote the papers through these journals. For the mathematics, we're going to be published in the advanced mathematics SCA journals, and other engineering, science, management, and humanities papers we're going to be published in the AAP publishings. And Paul Arch journals will be especially powered by the social sciences. This is the great platform of all researchers to publish their manuscripts, and I want thank to our universities given the great platform for the researchers to enhance their ideas, and they are projecting in the floor. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rajkumar, for the nice theme of the conference, explaining to us about what we're going to have for the next 2 days. As you can see, we'll be having various presentations and various talks from all over the world. So please, you should stay tuned for the next 2 days to hear what these people have to say. So let's go on to opening remarks by the chairperson, Reverend Father G. Sunda, MMI, Secretary of the University Council, DMI-St.John the Baptist University, Mangoshi, Malawi. Over to you, Father Sunda.
Thank you, Mr. Banga. My wishes to all the dignitaries present here for this international virtual conference. I am privileged to give opening remarks for this international virtual conference. DMI Foundation Trust is a strategic organization established by Very Reverend Father Dr. J. Arulraj in the year 1984, the founder of the religious congregations of Society of Daughters of Mary Immaculate and Collaborators, Society of Missionaries of Mary Immaculate and Associate Movement International, AMI, to facilitate the strengthening and development of the charism and the well-being of the societies by sharpening the vision along with the lay collaborators and experts. The DMI Foundation runs various educational, social, pastoral, and business institutions in USA, Brazil, Germany, France, Italy, Vatican City, Tanzania, Zambia, Malawi, Ethiopia, South Sudan, Central African Republic, Papua New Guinea, and India. Also have some plans to start new missions in some new geographies such as Argentina and Bhutan. The founder, Very Reverend Father Dr. J. Arul Raj, runs several educational institutions through Sisters of Daughters of Mary Immaculate and Collaborators, and Fathers of Missionaries of Mary Immaculate, and other flagship of DMI Foundation. DMI fathers and DMI sisters are running many group of institutions like colleges, universities, international schools, engineering colleges, arts and science colleges, polytechnic colleges, educational colleges, teacher training institute, colleges for women, community colleges, medical colleges to serve the people around the world. The DMI Foundation Trust strives hard to achieve their vision through excellence in human development, science and technology, in developing the world through scientific inventions and advancing technologies by cultivating the right attitude towards human well-being, ecological balance, and global harmony. Currently, DMI continues to provide quality services in all its aspects in different countries that is operating. As to lead the best role in education, DMI-St.John the Baptist University organizes various activities in its journey. I feel honored to congratulate the event of DMI-St.John the Baptist International Virtual Conference on Innovation, Science, Engineering, Management, and Social Sciences. I hope this conference will offer ample opportunity among researchers, academicians across the innovation science, engineering, management, and social sciences, and further strengthening of networks and the bonds of friendship between distinguished scientists, academicians, and researchers. I wish to thank the organizing team of the conference for working hard to organize this splendid event with a strong vision in terms of both intellectual quality and social gratification. Once again, I wish the conference to be prolific. Thank you, Mananda.
Thank you very much, Father Sunda. And now we're going to have the guest of honor to give us the facilitation, Dr. Elijah Malinga Menadwanda, but who is not with us today, but has sent in um, Dr. Gift A. Kazamir to give us the facilitation, who is currently the Director of Documentation and Information Services at the National Commission for Science and Technology. So, Dr. Gift, may you please give us what you have brought for us today?
Okay. Greetings from the National Commission for Science and Technology in Lilongwe, Malawi. Reverend Rex Kuma, who is a placement officer at DMI-St.John the Baptist, Dr. Ijerin Lino, principal, Mr. K. Rajkumar, organizing secretary and head of ICT, Reverend Father G. Sunda, chairperson of the University Council, Mr. Onganya Sulu, the master of ceremonies, the keynote speakers from all over the world, paper presenters, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the NCST Director General, Professor Elijah Wanda, and of course, on my own behalf, let me join the chairperson and those that have spoken earlier in welcoming you all to this virtual conference, 2 days virtual conference. Maybe it's of the first of its kind in the country, and we are happy to be part and parcel of that. Professor Elijah Wanda sends his best regards to you all and wishes he could have participated personally, but due to earlier commitments, he could not. It is therefore an honor for NCST to preside over the official opening of this virtual conference, which signifies the magnitude of importance that St. John the Baptist University attaches to research, science, technology, and innovation, which are critical drivers and enablers in the transformation of economies towards more productive and resilient nations. So I don't know, Mr. Onga, maybe my speech could be shared so that I just continue with the proceedings, the launch of the proceeding. Instead of us breaking, maybe my speech could be shared. I've already emailed it to you.
Okay, right now we're having the launch of the conference proceedings. So are you going to give us that right now?
Yes, ma'am. With the permission of Director General, I would like to share the proceedings on the floor.
Maybe I could just proceed and then that will be shared later on. Is that okay?
Yeah, yes, ma'am. It's okay.
All right, okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, as you may be aware, the National State Organization under the Ministry of Education in Malawi has a mandate of advising the government and all other stakeholders on issues to do with science and technology in order to achieve a science and technology-led development. The role of NCST in the promotion, supporting, coordination, and regulation of research, science, and technology and innovation cannot be overemphasized. NCST remains a national apex body mandated by law to promote, support, coordinate, and regulate research, science, and technology and innovation in order to create wealth and improve the quality of life at a national level. As such, NCST is a body that is geared to constantly champion efforts towards narrowing the research, science, technology, and innovation divide in collaboration with various stakeholders, such as universities, such as St. John the Baptist. So it is in this regard that the objective of the future conference, which is to provide opportunity for global participants to share ideas and experience, and also establish fields of physical science, mathematics, information technology, social science, management, and engineering during the career path augurs very well with the global and regional science, technology, innovation agenda, as well as some of the key functions of NCST. For example, at a global level, the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal number 9 recognizes science, technology, and innovation and highlights the need for specific skills training in SDG number 4, quality education, which I'm sure St. John the Baptist is providing. In general, the achievement of many of the SDGs require enhanced and scaled up STI capacity, which is also the objective of St. John the Baptist University. At the regional level, the African Union Agenda 2063, the Science, Technology and Innovation Strategy for Africa, in short called STISA 2024, and the Continental Education Strategy for Africa have further expressed the aspiration and need for Malawi to become a science and technology-led economy. Additionally, the SADC protocol on STI realizes the cross-cutting relevance of STI in supporting all programs that are meant to achieve sustainable socioeconomic growth and the eradication of poverty through implementation of regional indicative strategic development. Now coming to the local level, key to the work of NCST is that of inculcating a science culture among students. This is done through initiatives such as the Science Camp, where universities host secondary school students at a college campus for a period of time to give them a taster of college life and the kinds of subjects that they would have the opportunity to learn and the types of careers they could branch into, and also inspiring them to do STEM subjects. NST also hosts another initiative called Women in Science and Technology Network. This is a network of Malawian women scientists, researchers, and technologists from the academia, private sector, civil society, and government, with the objective of promoting science and technology among women and girls through scientific and technological dialogue, capacity building, and research. Some of WISNET activities include scientific writing retreats and funding for presentations at conferences. Professional development workshops. These target women in science and technology to ensure that women can stay current within their chosen professions and work-life balance. Furthermore, NCST, in collaboration with the Campus Academy and the Ministry of Education, also conducts science fairs. The fairs provide an opportunity for students to apply their knowledge and skills obtained through STEM and explain their projects to the general public. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll be failing in my duty if I don't mention of the other important role that NCST is supposed to play as stipulated under Section 24 of the 2002 Science and Technology Act. The Act provides for the establishment of a Science and Technology Fund as a sustainable financing mechanism whose main objective is the advancement of science and technology in Malawi and is meant to be used for the following purposes, among others. 1. Conferring achievement awards for researchers at national level, awards for innovators and technologies that can be easily attained. 2. Providing support for scientific research and technological development and the application of research results. 3. Provision of fellowships for undergraduate and postgraduate students. Full scholarships as well as bursaries. So NCST also has what we call a small grant scheme, which could be also very relevant to the needs of the DMI. The grants comprise financial assistance on travel. Maybe you want to travel and attend a conference. The small grants would assist on that. If you're writing dissertations, students, a travel grant could also assist on that, as well as other small grants that are probably universities would want to conduct in their premises. So this is available on NCST website on how one can apply for these small grants. The chairperson, ladies and gentlemen, another point worth noting is the fact that Malawi is also a member of UNESCO and a signatory to the Universal Declaration of Bioethics and Human Rights that was adopted by UNESCO. Among others, the aim of the declaration is to recognize the importance of freedom of scientific research and the benefits derived from scientific and technological developments, while stressing the need for such research and development to occur within the framework of ethical principles set out on this declaration and to respect human dignity, human rights, and fundamental freedoms. Malawi, through NCST, domesticates the application of this declaration to ensure that research conducted in Malawi is within the framework of ethical principles and applicable national laws, requirements, and guidelines, with the goal of protecting the safety, rights, and well-being of research participants. NCST therefore calls upon the research community here at home and abroad to always conduct research in Malawi with due diligence and adherence to the ethical principles and national applicable regulatory requirements, procedures, and guidelines. In doing so, we shall collectively be fostering and promoting the truest cause of the ethics of science, technology, and innovation for not only the safety, rights, and well-being of research participants, but also for the meaningful benefit of mankind. And NCST has another function of course, of organizing research dissemination conferences. So it is pleasing to note that St. John the Baptist is also complementing NCST efforts through this virtual conference that we have for 2 days beginning today. This is a platform for not only sharing and showcasing research results, but also for promoting the uptake of research that can foster evidence-based formulation, as well as promoting knowledge, skills exchange, and transfer across expertise. I therefore request all participants to discuss and critique all the presentations to be made freely and constructively. There have been many times when dissemination conferences have been held, but let's take a stock of how much of research has been taken on board to influence policy and interventions. I challenge you all to mainstream a culture of systematic review of research evidence as a post-dissemination step. It is at this step that we can identify critical recommendations that can constructively inform policy formulation, intervention, and practices that, if applied, will make this visual conference lead to significant contributions to the knowledge base in these up-to-date research fields in scope. I realize, therefore, that you need more time to showcase your research results, and I will not make a long speech. But allow me, as I come to the end of my address, to commend St. John the Baptist for the organization of this important conference. NCST remains committed to supporting the university in its endeavors. I would also like to sincerely thank all partners and sponsors who took part in organizing and sponsoring this conference. Your support is well registered and it is not in vain. To the researchers and participants,
Thank you, ma'am, for your wonderful felicitations, and we are our sincere gratitude from the DMI-St.John the Baptist University to you and your National Council for Science and Technologies. Madam Tawanga, you can proceed
sorry
the
for
next
that. I somehow. Hello.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We hear you. Please continue.
Sorry, I got off somehow, but to the researchers and participants, thank you for your availability, and I wish to encourage you to use this platform to collectively achieve its objectives. Ladies and gentlemen, with these remarks, it is now my honor to declare this virtual conference 2021 officially open. Thank you for your attention and God bless.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your felicitations and the grand openings of our great success of our conference. Madam Tawanga, we proceed the next agenda.
Sir, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Can I please proceed?
Yes.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gift Kazamir. And now we're going to have a keynote address by Dr. S.M. Malika Junaya, Professor of Mathematics and Statistics of Texas University, USA. And he is going to give us a presentation on an efficient finite element treatment of Darcy and Brickman. Dr. Malika?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, doctor.
Okay. I would like to share my slides. Give me a second. Am I the presenter now? I don't see share screen here.
In the bottom of your tool, have share button.
Yeah.
Before that, just open the presentation. Before
Yes,
click the
it's
share.
out. It's out. I mean, it is opened. Give me a second. Are you all seeing this?
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the invitation. It's an extremely. Extremely happy to participate in this workshop, even though it is almost 1:30 a.m. in US. You see that even at midnight, I'm wearing my jacket. It's cold here. It's a middle of snowstorm. Okay, so my talk today is an efficient finite element treatment of Darcy-Brinkman Forshamer model. So I choose this topic for many relevance. Number one, I will show you later, but these two are the people who are collaborating with me on this project. Dr. Yoon was my postdoc. Is currently at the Institute of Geoscience and Mineral Resources, Korea. And Dr. Paul is a senior professor in our department. And the funding for this project is from our university. I thank them for the funding and also allowed us to use the computer cluster. Okay, so the flows are beautiful, but they are difficult to compute. As you can see, the famous Niagara Falls here, it's pretty iconic and beautiful site. So the current project, what I am presenting today, is a small piece of a bigger project that we are working on. So we are working on developing a numerical method and tools for the hydraulic fracturing, or it is also called fracking. So that's a tool or a method that used in the oil and gas industry, where they pump the oil and water, sand, chemicals into a well, which is first drilled vertically and then horizontally, and they pump all this with a high pressure, so that below the earth they make some artificial fractures, and then they pull the water, the sand, chemicals out, and then in these fractures the natural gas is collected and then pulled back by the large trucks. So that's the tool that is being used in the oil and gas industry. And there are a lot of open problems in this area. And this has been an active area of research. So the part that I'm presenting today is a small piece of the overall project. I'm just showing you the simulator that we developed for the Darcy-Brinkman Forshamer model. That's actually, you can consider that as a fluid model, but we also need to couple with the solid, and then the interface problem comes into play, and a lot of difficulties and challenges and so on. Okay. So first, my plan is to give you the outline for the robust treatment of this nonlinear model, and I'll describe the new approach of stabilization of in-soup type discretization. And then this technique is simple, but it is effective in eliminating the numerical oscillations in convection-dominated flows. I will show you later, which is just an adding an extra algebraic term to the weak formulation that settles the lot of issues. But it brings in a lot of other challenges, but I will show you how we took care of those. And we exploit the construction of Schur complement based preconditioners that help us to fasten up the linear solvers. Okay, so the idea today is not to bore you with a lot of math. I'm just going to show you an important parts of the project, and then also show you the some of the numerical results. The current code, what we developed, can be easily extendable to some other interesting applications. I'll talk about all those later. Okay, so the mathematical model that we are looking at is the steady flow of viscous fluid in saturated porous medium when you don't consider inertial effects and fluid incompressibility. As a constraint, the models look like this. That's a famous model derived by the Joseph and others in 1982 paper. Where here U is the fluid velocity, P is the pressure, K, phi are the properties of the medium, permeability, porosity, and mu is the dynamic viscosity, and rho is the fluid density, and beta is the Forsheimer coefficient, and this F tilde is the external force. It can be magnetic force and externally applied magnetic field or gravitational field, etc. Okay, so one can model this like a flow of fluid in a porous medium. There has been a lot of experiment been done and been verified, and there have been little bit of power law kind of models but we are not going to consider those in this talk. So let's non-dimensionalize this by introducing our scaling variables. X star is the length, U star is for the velocity, P star for the pressure. Now with this non-dimensionalization, the model look like this. Note that I did not consider time derivatives. We can add them. It's not difficult. Okay. That's the model where RE is for the Reynolds number, dA is the Darcy number. So the interesting thing is the range of Reynolds number and Darcy number considered in the literature. But we have considered a variety of situations, but I'm going to show you only a few today. Where CF is the inertial resistance, we model it as an inertial resistance. But when we compare with experiment, when we have an experimental data, we can do it with the, we can just add them as parameters to our numerical code. Okay, so let me just introduce some notations first. Here, omega is assumed as non-convex bounded domain, polygonal domain, and partial omega is the boundary. And you can subdivide into two pieces. One, you apply Dirichlet boundary condition, another part where you apply Neumann boundary condition. And X be the non-linear space defined for omega. LP be the space of Lebesgue integrable functions. The classical one is the squaring integrable functions, and their inner product is defined by this equation. And then the norm is defined by this, and where a P norm is defined similarly by this equation. So we basically use the L2 for this problem. And then let's define, because there will be some derivatives we need to account for. So let's define them by using classical Hilbert space. H10 is the space that has the functions that are in L2 and gradients that are in L2. And we needed some parts of the domain, we needed the zero boundary condition. So let's take V0 on those parts and call them as X0. So if I don't put zero subscript, then it is just classical H1. And Q0 is the classical L2, but with zero mean. The integration of those over the domain are zeros. So we need this Q0 to approximate the pressure variables. So we need X0 to approximate the velocity variables. And we define H1 norm by the L2 norm of the functions plus L2 norm of the derivatives under the square root. So with this setup, simple setup, so let's introduce the method, and then I will show you the stabilization that we did. But first, when we look at the method, when we look at the model, it is clearly nonlinear. So therefore, we needed some kind of a linearization technique. So for that, we use classical Newton's method. So xn, let's denote xn as a vector that consists of un. So this guy can have components, the first and second component, and then you augment that with the pressure. So let's call that as, let's keep that as xn. And f is some kind of a matrix that we assume, both the momentum, incompressibility, everything taken as f. Okay, so we need to linearize this. So to linearize this, so we use Newton's method. So in that, the n plus 1th approximation is given by the n plus some update, delta xn, that's been multiplied by some alpha. This alpha is going to help you in the first convergence, or in enjoying the quadratic convergence of the Newton's method. And the delta xn, the update, is given by the negative inverse of the gradient of f times f. So that guy is the Jacobian. Okay, so the Newton's method looks this basically. So what we need to compute is this one, gradient of f. Okay, so for that we make use of direction derivative. So gradient of f, gradient of f is the direction derivative of f of xn. Okay, and how do you define? So you define by the Frechet derivative, and then you do some algebra. So you get that as the linearized version of momentum equation. And incompressibility is very easy. That's already linear. So now we look at solving this system now. Okay, for the update delta un and delta pn. Delta un and delta pn. Okay, so now we have a Newton's method. Now let's see how we can discretize this using finite elements. So, but before that, I have to take them, and this is a complicated equation, so I have to split them into pieces where some terms are trilinear, some terms are bilinear. So I split them as m with the 1 over Reynolds number term, and C with the 1 over Reynolds number times Darcy term. So remember this. And B is that pressure term. N is the product of the convective term. That's the linearized version of the convective term. And S is the Forsheimer term, which was on the right side of the equation. And now let's add all these, and that's going to give you our A tilde. What this helps us finding the estimates for this each term, and one can use classical Lax-Milgram to prove the existence and uniqueness of solution to the linearized problem. Okay, and remember this un is known. Okay, so this is like a given real number. You can think of it like this. So even though it looked like a trilinear, but this is actually bilinear term. So we can use we can make use of classical Lax Milgram to prove the existence and uniqueness of this. Let's now propose some continuous weak formulation, that is, find un plus 1 in x. Remember, x is h1, and pn plus 1 in q0. Q0 is the L2 with mean 0 mean. With u satisfy the boundary conditions G, okay? And u0, p0 are like a initial guess. Now, for each n from 0 to 1 to etc., you solve this system. Okay, so this is like a system of equations where a tilde, we can call this as a velocity block, b consists of the pressure block, and fv is the right side term, and the second term coming from incompressibility. So you can think of this as a saddle point problem also in classical computational fluid dynamics. But the problem here is this A tilde may give some headache because of the nonlinearity, and we did linearization, and it may not provide you first convergence. So we needed to do something for that. Okay, so that is, I will show you later. But whatever the finite element that we choose for approximating the velocity and pressure, this has to satisfy what is known as the in-soup condition. Okay, so when you decide by approximating velocity and pressure, so you also have to keep in mind your approximation space has to satisfy this in-soup condition. But because it's, because omega is bounded, this is not difficult to prove. C, you get the existence of C by the boundedness and connectedness of omega. Okay, that's like a standard textbook proof. Okay, now let's look at the finite element discretization. So you have omega divided into the quadrilateral elements. Each element is k. So you assume like this. So the union of all k's gives you the closure of the omega, and the intersection does not have anything in common. And intersection of each phase is either a point or a phase. Intersection of two elements, quadrilateral elements, must be either a point or a phase. Okay, so that way you subdivide your domain, and then for finite element space, you assume a continuous space like this, where qk's are the polynomials of order k, like tensor product. They are bilinear. Okay, so linear in x direction and linear in y direction, and yeah, they are polynomials up to order k on the reference cell. On each reference cell. So that's your finite element. So you have subdivided the domain. Now we have defined the polynomials. So now you have part of finite element defined, and then you also define discrete spaces. So for approximating velocity, I take xh as my discrete space, which is the intersection of this polynomials vector space intersected with our continuous h1, and qh are the polynomials intersected with our q. Q is the classical L2. So now you have the confirming finite element spaces xh and qh, and also you have subdivided the domain into finite elements. So now you properly have defined the method. Now let's go ahead and approximate. So this QH, XH cross QH, remember they also have to satisfy the discrete version of in-soup compatibility condition that I have defined a few slides back. Yes, this one. Okay, so it has to satisfy the discrete version of this compatibility. So that means you choose, if you choose the second order polynomials for velocity, you choose first order polynomials for pressure. So that way this condition automatically satisfied. Okay. So with that, let's now define the discrete version of our finite element. So the discrete version reads like this. So you find UH n plus 1. N plus 1 denotes the step number or the Newton's iteration number. And in XH and P n plus 1 in QH. And make sure that your updated velocities have to satisfy the boundary values, where this G I denoted as G tilde. So G tilde is like an L2 projection of your boundary values onto your finite element mesh. And as usual, this A tilde has the velocity block. All velocity terms, you put them in A tilde. And the pressure term, you put them in B. Okay. And this B is due to incompressibility. And remember, no finite element gives you the incompressibility exactly 0. So we have to add some kind of an error correction. So that's why you added minus BUHN. Remember, UHN has to satisfy the gradient of UHN must be 0, but the L2 norm may not be exactly 0. Okay, but you will be close to 0, which is numerically acceptable. Okay, now comes the issue of how do you stabilize this whole method. So we stabilize the discretization by using in soup condition, but we have to stabilize the overall method. That's because of you have two nonlinearities coming from convective term as well as the Forchheimer term. And then for that, we add what is known as the augmented Lagrangian stabilization. That is, this is kind of a graditive stabilization in the computational fluid dynamics community. So you add this term to the velocity block, where this guy gamma, let's call it as a stabilization parameter. So gamma equal to 0, you go back to your classical discretization. Gamma non-zero, you are now in the kind of an artificial stabilization. So the interesting problem is to find the optimal value of gamma. So for that, you need to do a lot of experiments and then come up with some kind of an estimate and then verify that on your computer code. So we have done that. So the optimal value of gamma, we found out that that's the norm of the velocity and the whole domain. So if you find the velocity first using the known solution and then find out the norm on the whole finite element mesh, and you can choose that as your gamma and then proceed with the method. This works beautifully. Okay, so now we have the method, we have the stabilization. Okay, so how does the matrices look like? So your M is with the 1 over Reynolds number term that I showed in the beginning of my talk, and your C are with the 1 over Reynolds number Darcy number term, and your N's are the convective nonlinearity term, but here it is linearized, and your S is is the nonlinearity coming from the Forchheimer term. So B is that divergence term or the pressure term, and L is the augmented Lagrangian term that you just added. Okay, so these are the matrices. So M, S, N, M, C, N, S, these will go into velocity block. So B stays with the pressure block, and L is the one that we added for the velocity block. So now the idea is to add all these matrices for the whole mesh. Okay. So now let's look at solving linear system. So once you assembled your linear system, means once you assemble these matrices, you are solving this matrix now. So matrix system now. So A tilde X equal to some G, where A tilde is given by this block matrices, where this A is the velocity block without the newly added augmented Lagrangian, and B is the pressure block. Okay. So now the idea is to solve this one. Now the problem is coming up with the right iterative solver. Okay. And then we needed to converge faster. Okay, that's the ultimate goal for any numerical code. For that, what we do is we look for a preconditioner that can help us in solving this in a cheaper way. Let's call that as P. So for let's take X as P inverse times Y. Okay, so you solve for Y here, and then once you know Y, you already know P, so it is only just a product of matrix and a vector that's going to give you X. So your X is the what that contains the velocity block and the pressure, velocity values and pressure values. Okay, so the idea is to come up with a solver for this one, A tilde P inverse Y equal to G. Okay, I will show you what is P is. So P look like this one. So it is A gamma, where A gamma consists of your velocity block plus the newly added augmented Lagrangian term, and B is your pressure block, and S tilde is the Schur complement. The inverse, remember, we need to find the inverse of this. So this is a block matrix. You can easily find the inverse. So inverse of this involving finding the inverse of this S. And it is defined as, for this problem, we have defined this as nu. Nu is like given viscosity times MP inverse. Take MP as the pressure mass matrix. Its entries are this. And gamma is the augmented Lagrangian term, and W for this exercise we choose W also as MP. This is actually, it's just a minus nu plus gamma times MP inverse. Okay, so it is not like a 2 matrix, it's like a 1 matrix, and then the S inverse is defined like this. And when you do some algebra, it comes out to be very nice form, where A is your velocity block without augmented Lagrangian. So this you can compute. Okay, so this you can compute. B A inverse B transpose you can compute. The inverse you can compute. The W inverse you can compute. So this computing S inverse comes out to be very cheaper compared to computing the whole matrix inverse. So once you have S inverse, now you have to develop the P inverse. So once you develop the P inverse, we can go back and use that here to solve for Y, and after Y you can solve for X. So now you have velocity and pressure for the whole finite element domain. That's the overall method. There are a lot of theory in it. I'm not showing that here, but this is still an unpublished work. You can take a look at when we publish the results. Okay, so let me just show you some numerical results quickly. So this table indicating the L2 norm of the error in the velocity, the H1 norm of the error in the velocity, and the L2 norm of the pressure. So the theory says the L2 norm of the error should be like twice the order of the polynomial that you used. Oops, it should be 4 times. So the polynomials are used are quadratic for velocity. So 4 times 2 is 8. So it has to be at the rate of 8, which is what we are seeing here. And the H1 norm has to be twice the polynomial order. That is 2 times 2, 4, which is the convergence rate is 4 for velocity. And for pressure, it should be 4 times. The L2 norm is 4 times. And we have used a first order polynomial for pressure. So 4 times 1 is 4, and we see 4 convergence rate. As we increase the mesh size, or we increase the number of degrees of freedom, or we decrease the mesh size. So we got theoretical convergence rate both for velocity in L2 H1 norm as well as for pressure. Okay, good. So far our code and method works beautifully. It clearly gives out the textbook results. Okay, good. Now let's compare with some standard benchmark published results. So what you're seeing here is the UY. UY is the vertical velocity on a horizontal line and the midline. And the red line here is our numerical results for Reynolds number 3200. And there are triangles here on the red line. Those are the published results by GIA, which is a standard result. Everybody compares with GIA. That's like a benchmark problem. And the blue line is for the Reynolds number 1000. And again, the dot points on that are the values from GIA. So we clearly, this satisfies the published results. Same goes with the horizontal velocity and the vertical line. This is the vertical velocity and the horizontal line. And we have a pretty much good comparison with the published results of GIA. And then the next is, I just wanted to show you just one numerical results. This is the classical lid-driven cavity problem, where you have a rectangular domain and the top lid is moving, but where the bottom lid is fixed. But you can move the bottom lid also, but the top lid is moving. This is a classical problem. Anybody who does a new method, they do this problem. It means they test their method on this problem. So we see for the Brinkman model, the leftmost picture or the rightmost in your screen. So this picture is the Brinkman model, and that is for Darcy Brinkman, and this is for our the model that we studied here, which is, you can see that the central vortex has moved slightly towards the right side, and also development of large other secondary vertices. Okay, so this needs to be studied thoroughly. I don't have much time today to show you many of the results, but I can show you some other time. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, sir, for your wonderful keynote on this first day. Thank you so much for your valuable times. The participants, as a common keynotes only, we are going to be project here in the YouTube channel. So the next keynote on time of 12 p.m. The 12 p.m. GMT plus 2 is the Malawi time. So you can connect. Is the second keynote session is going to be given by Dr. Nagalakshmi Annamalai in the topic of learning in the crisis times. So kindly join the time. I pasted the next session YouTube link on the chat box for your reference. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. In between time, the university has the plan to conduct the paper presentation, those who have submitted the manuscripts. So nearly 100 manuscripts we're going to be present this 2 days. Now I will link to show the whole schedule of our conference on the floor. The first keynote presentation is done. So now we have some health break, and after that 10:15 GMT plus 2 time, we're going to be started the paper presentation in the 4 venues, nearly 40 papers. And this time the author is going to be present on virtual meet in the Google Meet. And at 12 o'clock, we will join in the YouTube for the keynote address 2, going to be given by Dr. Nagalakshmi Annamalai, University of Science, Malaysia, in the topic of minimalistic active learning approach in the time of crisis, and followed by we have a lunch break. So the first half day session is over at 12:30, and 30 minutes lunch break after. The third keynote speak, Dr. Sarada Sadasivam, professor from University of Science, Malaysia. She's going to be given neuro symbolic integration, a new perspective in artificial intelligence, followed by 1:30 to 4:50. We have another paper presentation scheduled. So this whole day is going to be scheduled like this. And second day, we have another 3 keynote speaks. For your reference, I displayed here. And followed by, after completing of paper presentation, tomorrow we're going to be announce the best paper in the floor. So they will receive the best paper certificates, and followed by we have valedictory speech also. So kindly join with us, and if you need to be join with us as continually, you can subscribe our channel DMI-SJBU YouTube channel. You can get forthcoming events in live. Thank you so much. Thank you for your support.